So thank you everybody for joining Dear Executive Coach, another episode. And today we're going to speak with somebody who is my friend here, Victoria Thompson. So thank you, Victoria, for being here. Appreciate it. She is a U.S. Navy veteran and a leadership coach. And she specifically works with veterans, helping them make transitions from service life into civilian life. Well, let's read this letter and then let's talk a little bit about how you help individuals who come to you that are in similar circumstances.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So, dear executive coach, my career question is not typical, but I hope you can offer me some guidance. I have served as a logistics specialist in the U.S. Navy for the last 8 years, and in the next few months, I will be released from active duty. I intend to move back to my hometown and maybe take some time off while I prepare to re-enter civilian life. I have developed and matured many leadership and practical skills during my service and know I have qualities which will bring me success in my next chapter. Still, I feel overwhelmed with this next step and need guidance in navigating what career path I should explore. I want to create a work life that is both in alignment with my skill set and resonates with my experience. What do you suggest? Signed, Navy veteran, rank E6. So that sign off means absolutely nothing to me. But so give us a little clarity. How does this, are these the kind of issues that you help people with? Maybe that's where we'll start.
Yes, I think to start, the thought to take some time off makes a lot of sense, and I think that's a really good idea. So transitioning from military life to civilian life definitely is a transition, and a lot of people underestimate how much of a transition it actually is.
Yeah.
A lot of the things and a lot of the processes as far as the corporate world or even the job market have shifted, especially being in 8 years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
a lot of the things that processes in the way that you may have looked for a job and the way you may have written your resume and things like that have significantly changed over the time period.
Yeah.
So hopping back in is going to be difficult, and it's definitely going to require training.
Yeah. So share with me how some of the other differences that might not be on someone who's in the civilian world doesn't even think of what, the challenges that somebody coming out of military might face in terms of expectations or roles or procedures. I know every company is different, but shine some light on maybe some extra challenges that somebody leaving service may be dealing with, that somebody who's always been in civilian life would come more naturally, or there'd be an understanding.
Sure. So translating the skills and the jobs that the person had while in the military can be difficult, because a lot of times the terminology that's used when you're in the military doesn't translate in the civilian world, so where people can understand exactly what you did. So getting some training and understanding how to word it and how to express your experience in a way that a civilian employer is going to understand is going to be huge.
That
That's
sounds really valuable. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I worked for a technology company in my work experience, and we always actually we really would seek out people who had military experience for a variety of reasons, which I'm sure you know and understand well. These people understand commitment, responsibility, leadership, taking ownership, taking action. And they were always a welcome asset and added hugely to our company culture. So I know, as having been part of the hiring team for that company, or helping with hiring, that those people had a huge positive impact on our infrastructure. And yet what you're saying makes a lot of sense. Some of their skills are how they would describe their job, although there's several ways that they can translate into civilian work life. It may not be as easy for them to connect the dots. And that's where it sounds like you really help.
Yes, just getting the wording together is essential, especially when it comes to building the resume, creating the resume. I think also because veterans do have so much experience with leadership,
Yeah.
finding a position that is going to honor that is
Mhm.
extremely important.
Yeah. And usually you're never as a manager, you're never dissatisfied with what shows up. It's above and beyond the training that a lot of times happens in corporate America.
Yes, and one of the things that some veterans typically need to work on has to do with communication. The way that you communicate while in the military is dramatically different than the way you communicate and the expectations that you have once you're out of the military. In the military, it's a lot more aggressive and fast-paced, and just the language that you might use needs to kind of soften a bit once you get out.
Yeah. So how do you work with an individual? How do you first get them to recognize, how they communicate and how it might show up or be different? What are some of the things you talk about?
So usually it kind of shows up in one area or another. So they'll bring maybe a situation and maybe they don't understand why they didn't get the response they were looking for, or
Mhm.
why they did get the response that they did.
Okay.
So understanding, number one is just the way that you speak to people with patience and with understanding, because unlike the military where there's this system of how the way that you speak to people is very assertive, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
learning how to kind of soften that and how to use different language, how to kind of wrap your statement in
Mhm.
a way that it's going to be received well, because of the fact that civilians haven't necessarily had the same training and experience, they haven't gone through the same experiences.
Right.
So it's very different in how you address them.
Yeah. And when we were talking at the beginning before we really got into the letter here, you were sharing kind of how you speak to groups a lot about mental health and when the military a lot of times, as you said, they're living in the moment and don't have a lot of time to decompress or analyze all the experience that they've gone through, and yet they've had a great impact on who they are. Tell me how those experiences influence their career decisions in the civilian life and what you do to discover and navigate that with them.
Sure. So especially when getting out, depending when a person gets out, they're typically looking for, like the writer said, a more balanced life.
Hmm.
So in the military, with the typical work schedule, balance isn't necessarily integrated into the lifestyle.
Hmm.
You're a sailor or you're a soldier 24 hours a day, right?
Right.
So that's that's the mindset. So when people come out, they can tend to have that similar mindset, but yet they want to have a different experience. So now they want to focus a little bit more on family, focus a little bit more on self-care.
Yeah.
So teaching them how to navigate that when you still have this urge to work primarily all the time, right? Um,
Yeah.
so it just establishing the importance of developing those relationships, developing those friendships, developing that family time, and also taking time for yourself, because the mental health concept is going to be extremely important because it hasn't been, prioritized or valued while in the service.
Yeah.
So teaching them about, self-love, self-care, those type of things, usually getting them set up with resources. So that would be the one of the very first things, is when as soon as a person gets out, is to get them set up with VA resources.
Yeah.
The VA offers a number of programs to help veterans with everything from employment options to going to school to self-employment,
Yeah.
as well as mental health services.
Yeah.
A lot of the mental health services include things that are quite fun, like say acupuncture or drumming circles, or
Yeah.
things that are different. A
Yeah.
lot of these things I've tried out. They have Tai Chi, they have yoga.
Mm.
So yeah, they have a lot of things that are geared towards connecting the mind with the body,
Right.
and integrating that almost spiritual, almost mental improvement capacity, mindfulness.
Yeah. That's really, I think that's I wasn't aware that they have those resources, and I agree with you. They are so important because, and this is my assumption, is that when you're in the military, you're operating at 12 RPMs. There is no let's reset, let's calm down, you're kind of running hard and running fast the whole time. You are on high alert, and you are mentally armored at all times and ready. And to kind of help individuals dial that down and embrace that they don't have to be at that, such a high performing level all the time, and actually eventually you'll burn out, and it will erode your mental health or your personal relationships or other things that require you to be in a different mindset. So I think that's wonderful that you help them first find the balance in their life.
Yes, especially establishing a safe space for them to start to step into vulnerability.
Yeah.
A lot of times with the things that you face in the military, you put up these guards, you put up these walls, you become almost like a stone in the sense of emotion. So,
Yeah.
expressing emotion can be difficult. I know that it's one of the reasons I love spoken word poetry, because it's a very emotional form of art.
Yeah.
And it shows how to have emotions, allow emotions to be out and allow them to flow and to open up to that sense of vulnerability, especially around other people.
Yeah. Um, I also, and I'm curious if sometimes the experiences both. I wonder if veterans, once they come to this realization, actually want to be a resource themselves for veterans who may be reentering civilian life, and that has influence on their career. Kind of like, I have been where you have been. I understand, similar maybe to what the work that you're doing, Victoria. I mean, you come from a place of compassion and empathy and experience where you really know what it's like to be in their shoes, which makes you a ideal coach for these individuals. Do you find other service people also want to explore careers where they can give back and assist and connect with people in the military?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Discovering what you're passionate about when it comes to your career is a essential first step. What do you want to do? Why you want to do it? Understanding those two things are important for the longevity of the career.
Right.
A lot of veterans that come out, especially depending on what their experience was while they transitioned,
Yeah.
want to help other veterans in a certain way, like maybe with housing or getting helping them to get on their feet as soon as they get out, or introducing them especially to the VA process, because the VA does have a lot of amazing programs.
Hmm.
The process can be tedious, and it can also be pretty long.
Yeah.
So stepping them through those processes, I think, is one of the things that a lot of veterans that come out and have transitioned tend to want to go towards, because they have their own experience that they had as they were going through processes. It can be frustrating. The VA, it works with a lot of veterans. There are a lot of veterans that they work with. So it can be difficult with communication, and the VA is still, young. And so there's a lot of things that they're learning, they're growing, they're working with different companies and things like that. So getting them through those processes, being there with them so that they continue and they don't lose hope, or, they don't lose the drive to want to move forward in the processes, with either whether it be getting their, service connected benefits, or getting their 9/11, or even their vocational rehabilitation, because all of those services are provided, but a lot of times veterans don't access them because they either don't know about them, or because they start the process, but then along the way they got discouraged because of the difficulty of it, and just, didn't continue.
Yeah. And I would think, you having the training that you do, being a coach, you help with the emotional connection, which is probably not that it's easy for everyone, but in that demographic, it may be something that has been guarded for a long time. So to create that connection and that trust, would you say that's a big challenge in the work that you do to break through some of that?
It is. I think really, especially as a veteran myself, resonating with their experiences is important because a lot of times veterans come out and they're talking to people who aren't, veterans, and so they can understand to a degree, but not as deeply as another veteran who has experienced something very similar. So I think community when it comes to veterans is important, because there are just some experiences, especially if you were, say, in a war zone, that is hard to express. And it can be easier for you to be able to talk about it when you're sitting next to someone who is also, seeing the same things, or, know exactly what you're talking about when you talk about the sites that you've seen, and things like that, and can handle even
Yeah,
the conversation.
the reality of that. Yeah. And we as coaches, we're not mental health professionals. We are very clear on the delineation between mental health professionals and the work that we do. But that being said, we can work really well hand in hand with a mental health professional in terms of creating actions and building roadmaps and accountability, and actually taking steps to create the changes that they want to in their life.
Yes, definitely. Developing those communities and working together is essential, to help the veteran the best way possible.
Yeah. Well, this has been a great conversation, Victoria, and thank you. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you for taking care of all the men and women who serve our country. And I really think that the work that you're doing is having a significant impact on a population that deserves, this kind of care.
Thank you, Cynthia, and thank you for
Yeah.
having me.
Yes. So to learn more about Victoria, you can visit her website, Victory is Us. I will put the link in the description here if you want to get in touch with Victoria or have any questions for her or want her to come and talk to you, because I know that she does a lot of public speaking as well. But it's been a very big pleasure and I appreciate your time. And if you all want to see more episodes like this, please subscribe to Dear Executive Coach. And of course, hit the like button as well, so we know what kind of topics you enjoy hearing. Thanks, everybody. Bye. My name is Cynthia Greenfield, and on this channel, we address your workplace dilemmas. I invite other executive coaches and leaders, and we read your letters and offer guidance and solutions on your workplace problems. To send me an email, you can address it to dearexecutivecoach@gmail.com, and we might read it right here on the air.